percentage of any head coach, male or female, in NCAA basketball history. UConn women's basketball coach Gino Auriemma. Gina, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. As these guys know, I'm a UConn alum.
Yep.
Grew up going to games. We've been season ticket holders, men's and women's, for years. So my favorite guest yet here on First Take. Thank you.
Hey, when I walked in and I heard these guys, I thought we stumbled on the Republican primary.
Oh!
I thought we stumbled on the debates here, you know? I was hoping Molly would get a chance to ask a question once in a while.
It did rate well. It did rate well. It did.
It always does. All right, let's get into it. Gino, you have never lost a championship game. What does UConn do differently that you're able to consistently dominate even in the biggest stages?
We usually bring the best team. You know, that has a lot to do with it. You know, when you've got the best player and you got the best team, then it's just a matter of convincing your players that we can't get beat. We can only lose. And a lot of times I think players, when they get in that big stage, are afraid to lose, so they don't play up to their abilities. You know, people talk about choking. It's not that players can't perform. It's just the fear of losing kind of paralyzes them, and they start thinking about it. So we just try to put the focus on, listen, we're the best team. No matter if they play their A game or not, we're still going to win as long as we play our A game. And we just the other team, I think.
Boring, mundane, monotonous. I don't know which word is appropriate, but I want to know, do you, with all of this winning, considering the fact that you have more championships than the entire women's basketball field combined of active coaches, I want to know, are those feelings, those emotions, anything that ever touches you? And if not, why hasn't that happened with you yet when you've won so much?
There are times when you think about it, Stephen. I'm not gonna lie. There are times when you sit back and you're talking with your coaches and your players sometimes in the off season or quiet moments, and you just say, you know, it's incredible what we've done. As long as you don't sit back and congratulate yourself every day about it, it kind of gives you a sense of self-confidence in you and your team, and say, we're the only players, we're the only coaches that really know what right now what it takes to win a national championship. This group of players has won 3 in a row. And we sit there and we think, you know what, if it comes down to that, we've got something nobody else has. So we just use it as a form of, like, that's our badge. That's our armor that protects us.
So what part of your incredible success is coaching and how much is recruiting? And I guess my question is, could Stephen A. win with the players you're able to recruit? Seriously.
Could he? Maybe so. Maybe so. It would be like, could we throw any of you guys on American Pharoah and win the Kentucky Derby? He's the best horse, but probably not. So I think you have to have the best players, and you have to know how to put them in positions to be successful.
Well, is it 50-50, would you say?
I think coaches lose more games than they win.
Wow. Okay.
First, you lose in recruiting. You don't get the players.
Yeah.
Then when you do get them, you mismanage, or you put them in positions where they can't be successful. You put a guy who can only play in this part of the floor, and you try to make them play over here. Or you put them in a system that doesn't suit your players. Then I think coaches are losing games. If a coach just manages and puts them in a position where they can be great, then it's up to the players.
I'm wondering, when I think about you and your coaching career, A, have you ever thought about coaching the men's program at UConn? And I mean, seriously, I've often wondered, because I think, and obviously you guys, I mean, Kevin Ollie guided them to the national championship, and we all know the history of UConn men's basketball. But considering what you accomplished, I've wondered if you ever thought about it and how badly you've ever wanted to do it, if at all.
Not at UConn.
Why not at UConn?
Because I think we had a great coach, and we have a great coach now. I love baseball, and I used to play baseball all the time. And you know, when your second baseman gets hurt, you don't put your shortstop over there because now you're lousy at both positions. So I would never want to put us in that situation. But there's been opportunities. But I'm at a stage in my life now where, when I was 35 or 40, and that opportunity came along like it did later in life, who's to say I wouldn't have taken it? But right now, I'm kind of happy where I am.
You made some remarks back at the Final Four about men's college basketball,
Yeah.
saying that just as a spectator, you find it to be a joke. There are only about 10 teams that you would sort of pay to watch.
Right.
Because they just can't score.
Right.
And that they'll tell you, I'm just reading the rest of your quote here, bottom line is nobody can score, and they'll tell you it's because of great defense, great scouting, a lot of teamwork, nonsense. Give us some more thoughts there.
Well, you know what's funny? A lot of guys that worked here went crazy, and some people's first reaction was, well, what about the women's game? Well, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about answering the question about what do you think watching the men's game.
Right.
So the comments that I made, the people that came back at me, well, there's 25 new rules, aren't there, in men's basketball now going into this year? So I wasn't the only one that thought that.
Right.
The way I said it leaves a lot to be desired, I think. But I think the game, when you've got that many good players on the floor, you can't be playing games in the 60s. I think coaches have too much control of the game in college. Like you look at the NBA, whether you have the best players or not, you're going to play by a certain standard of rules that are entertaining the fans. Remember when the Knicks used to win 80-75? When Patrick
Pat
Ewing
Riley,
and Pat
yes.
Riley, well, they looked around and said, this isn't very entertaining.
Right.
So I think we have to understand we're in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And people want to come watch a game where they're entertained. Who wants to watch a game where you miss 6 out of every 10 shots? You can say, I could do that. I'm not going. You're not going to pay to go to a concert and see Sinatra and go, he just got the first 3 songs half right.
Fair. But I must ask you, would you rather lose pretty or win ugly?
Well, I'd rather win.
No, the reason I asked that question is because as a Knicks fan, looking at Ewing, Oakley,
Yeah.
Charles,
Yeah.
John Starks, all of these guys, I was saying to myself, well,
It was what it
that's
was.
a legitimate shot at a title.
It was what it was, and they took advantage of the rules.
Right.
So I'm not criticizing them. I would do the same thing. But once you change the rules, now you will lose pretty.
Right. No question.
What difference does it make if you lose 60-40 or 100-80? But losing 100-80 is more appealing to fans watching the game.
Right.
You can convince people that you're playing good defense. You can't convince anybody that your offense is good when you're scoring 60. And I just think we're getting there. I think the men's committee did a great job, and they're getting there. And you're going to see a big difference this year. You're going to see the game being played. I think that's why some college coaches are going to the pros, because I think they're tired of that, like Billy Donovan or Fred Hoiberg.
Yep.
You know, these guys, I think they like the ability of, like, let's just let the guys play. Let's not strangle them. What's happening?
Is it also possible that they don't want to have to go out there and recruit?
That's part of it.
Right.
That's part of it. You're a coach in the pros, and you're like, my guy does something stupid at 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not my problem. When you're in college, that's
Different
your problem.
deal, yep.
Everything is your problem in college.
Excuse me. I'm glad you went there because that was going to bring up another question I was going to ask you. I'm certainly not going to ask you to comment specifically about, a contemporary in the business like a Rick Pitino, but so much was made about the whole scandal that happened at Louisville just a few weeks ago with strippers and the like in dorms and assistant coaches and being involved. What were the thoughts going through your mind, and what is the thoughts going through a college coach's mind when you see a story like that generating that level of national publicity? What are the kind of things that we should have been saying that you think may not have been said from a coach's perspective?
Well, the NCAA has made it so that the head coaches, which would be my peers, we have made to be now responsible for everything that happens on your campus relative to your players and your assistant coaches. That's a lot of responsibility on one person. That means 24/7, you've got to know that would be like you're responsible for your children's actions when they're 21 and still living at home. So that means you have to have a monitor on them 24/7. That's a lot of responsibility. So is that fair that that's the standard we're held to? That's the world that we live in today. So my first reaction was, man, I hope it was just a guy doing stuff to think that I want to look good in my profession by being able to deliver X number of players, so I'm going to do this. I hope that's what it was. That's my first thought. I hope that's all it was.
But does that notion go flying out the window when you hear that this stuff was going on in the dorm on campus. It ain't like it was at a club off campus.
Hey,
it ain't like it was
look,
at a house party.
look,
I mean, this is on campus.
Let me tell you something. Being a college coach for 30 years, I got to tell you, I bet you I don't want to know some of the stuff that's happened in dorms over the last 30 years that I've been at Connecticut. I don't want, and any of you that went to college and lived in a dorm, you don't want to know.
I agree.
You don't want to know. And maybe that's best. And you know what? That's the other beauty about coaching women's sports. Generally speaking, we don't have to have that kind of stay up late at night waiting. And it's unfair, too. You know, you got 15,000 people ages 18 to 22, all in close proximity.
Things happen.
Last quick question.
A lot happens.
You grew up in Philly, an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
What shot do you give the Eagles to win the NFC East?
Listen, how many people we got in this room? If we could put together 11 people in this room, we'd have a shot. So they have as good a shot as anybody. You know what we got to do? We got to stop squandering red zone opportunities. That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah. I got an idea.
That's hand the ball to the running back a little more and let him go.
I got an idea. How about Colin Kaepernick? Getting him from San Francisco to Philly.
Why is he so great, though? He's just got benched.
Same guy that got the team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So
Sam Bradford didn't do that.
Something's not right. Hey, look, I don't coach that game. I just watch it. I enjoy it. And I just know that if you don't put 40 points up on the board anymore, it's hard to win in that league.
Yeah.
It seems like it anyway. It's like college football is the same way. And that's what I was saying about college basketball.
Yeah.
Every place else, it's about putting points on the board. You know? And the Eagles, they usually do that. I don't know.
They used to.
They usually do that. And they're going to do it Sunday night, too. Sunday night football against your...
We'll see.
No, your Cowboys.
Don't say me.
Your Cowboys.
Don't say me.
His Cowboys.
His Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Yeah, my Cowboys would be lucky to score 6 in that game.
I'm glad you
But we all live in New England, man. We're all Patriots fans all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
You just put up 95 to 39.
Yeah,
Not a bad
but
night
that's
yesterday
different.
in
That's
Hartford.
different.
Yeah.
That's different. The level of
That's just another day in the
level of
office.
talent last night
Yeah.
was worse than that.
Even
the level
when the
of talent
goes up, you guys will still get it done. Gino, thank you so much.
I like our chances Sunday night.
Thank you so much for what you've done for not just the basketball program, but the university as well.
I appreciate
you
that.
making time.
Thank you, guys.
More First Take.